Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
I'm Chris Clements. Sean, the entire world is going to hell.
Yeah. Well, let's start with.
I mean, what a week.
fires.
We were just here like a week ago, and
we were
the whole.
I mean, everything went to heck.
Everything keeps going down.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got a lot to cover today.
Oh my gosh, what a week! But I think we want to start with the fact that Joe Biden wants to send $700, 700 whopping simoleons to the people of Maui for their hardship over last week.
That's
$700.
crazy.
And what did he say when the press asked him about? Does he have anything to say to the good people of Maui? What did he say?
No comment.
No comment.
No
and
comment.
Why do you think he would say no comment? Because he doesn't know what to say. If it's not on the teleprompter, if it's not on the cue card, if it's, I'm supposed to say something here. I don't know.
Yeah,
And then $700 while we're spending, and I know you're a big supporter of Ukraine. I mean, you want to see justice done there.
Well,
but we are sending billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, and we can't take care of the people of Maui.
it's insane.
I mean, do something. I read this today. I mean, they've only uncovered roughly 7 to 10% of the structures there in Hawaii.
Yeah, there's going to
be, they're finding women, children, families hugging each other,
right,
burned alive.
It's awful.
I mean, and they're like, oh, we 100 dead. It's going to be like 1,000 people dead.
Yeah, it'll be significantly more than the 110 so far.
Oh my gosh.
And
$700.
The lack of reaction from Biden has been stunning. And if the media had a modicum of integrity, they would be
outraged.
all over this. Because remember, as we've said to each other, Katrina.
Yeah.
In fact, my wife asked me, she's like, did George Bush ignore Katrina like this?
No.
And I was like, no, not at all. I mean, he got criticized for flying over because he didn't land.
I was just remembering that he got criticized for flying over, but much like Katrina, unfortunately. I mean, there's the presidential reaction and the politics of that, but much like Katrina, so much of this is going to be blamed on people of the ground. Who was the mayor of New Orleans back then? What was that guy's name?
Mitch Landrieu?
No. During Katrina, and he was partying in the Marriott Hotel while the city flooded.
Yep.
And
the
level of inaction by officials,
by the local officials. Well, in
officials,
Hawaii,
is unbelievable.
We know that they cut off the water supply. That there was something else that they did, and it started apparently from an electrical short. Is how the fire started.
With 70-mile-per-hour winds from the hurricane moving somewhat south of Hawaii,
right.
It created an impossible situation, obviously.
Right.
But the fire broke out at they're saying about 9:00 that morning up in the hills just above Lahaina. They said it had been contained. Obviously, with the winds being what they were, it was not contained.
No way. Yeah.
And then it got
just a powder keg.
Just
blew right through town.
Unbelievable. And we were just there in April, enjoying our time there. It's so sad because we love Lahaina, love the banyan tree, love just being there. We had the best luau right there next to the Hotel Lahaina, and I just can't believe it.
Yeah,
I've been watching videos and drone footage, and then to watch the president who says that I'm a uniter, I'm going to bring the country together, and he has no comment.
Yeah, no comment.
And he has no comment because he's senile and decrepit and a complete and total, wash.
Even if that's the case, which it seems to be, that's still not a good reason.
No.
It's still not an excuse. I mean, where's Kanye West now? I mean, Joe Biden doesn't care about Hawaiians.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like he said, George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Here's what the Federalist said.
In the most awkward moment, probably in live TV history.
Oh, yeah. Completely.
Mike Myers was just like, okay, and moving on.
Yeah. Here's what the Federalist reported. Judging by the average grocery costs in Hawaii, $700 would last a family for just over a week.
Yeah, well, they're gonna.
That's not even
take,
considering the obvious added difficulties present for survivors of the deadliest wildfire the country has ever experienced. Well, experienced in a century, whatever that means.
Yeah, well,
Whatever.
Well, actually, it's now it's deadliest in modern history because the one previous to that was a wildfire in California that killed 85, and this is now going to be way more.
No,
than that.
this is way more than that.
So
This, I mean, the like I said, the reports coming in are just devastating. And apparently school was called off that day as well. And so a lot of kids were home alone.
oh gosh,
And so their parents are at work. They don't know what's going on. The sirens don't go off. Those fail.
yeah,
I mean, the level of incompetence. And, you know, Hawaii is not a conservative state. There's plenty of federal, state funds for every little thing that you could even think of. And for everything to fail all at once. I mean, it literally could be Joe Biden's Katrina if there was a press corps that had any sort of integrity.
yeah. Well, our obviously we're heartfelt prayers go to all of those in Maui, and the other fires that are going on.
And all of our thanks and prayers to all the aid workers and folks like Samaritan Purse are flying in tons of supplies just to leave what is an intolerable situation.
Yeah.
I mean, the videos of people jumping into the water with fire blazing over them and embers and boats, you know, basically blowing up and sinking.
Yeah.
It's
It's just
unbelievable.
incredible.
Unbelievable.
Horrific.
But you know, there's another fire brewing.
What's that?
That's in the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about burning down.
Burning down the house. It's like a Talking Heads song.
So we have the debate coming up next week.
You like that transition?
Yeah,
was good.
that's a good trend. I was wondering how we're going to
That's
get out of
segue.
this terrible, awful. What's happening.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Just go to the terrible.
This is
awful.
100-mile-per-hour winds, and
Right.
the ships are sinking, and people are bailing, and
Wow, doesn't that sound familiar? Yeah. So well, actually, I think since the last time we met together, we were together. Trump's been indicted the fourth time.
yes,
You know what I felt about the indictment from the feds, from Jack Smith. This one isn't much better. I mean, the idea that this DA has strung together a RICO case from a criminal, this is a criminal enterprise, and that text messages and tweets, now in and of themselves, I mean, she's trying to create this pattern of, trying to steal this. I think that a lot of this is going to fall on the wayside. But from the standpoint of actual legal risk, this one is the worst that Trump's facing, because there's no ability to have a president pardon.
no, it's
Whether
it's a
it's-
state case,
whether
unless they
it's
can get it moved to the
himself.
federal court.
Yeah, or because in Georgia, state laws can't, or state criminal convictions can't be pardoned by the president, and Georgia doesn't have the ability for governors to pardon. So,
Nope.
and
No,
I'm
you
not
have to
sure
go
Brian
back-
Kemp would do it anyway.
No, he wouldn't. And I don't
Because he's
know.
pointed out that this election was not stolen.
Yeah, he pointed that out abruptly before that. I mean, after this indictment was announced, of his belief in the integrity of the Georgia election system, despite what Trump has said. But I mean,
Well,
this
I
is
didn't- see, I
this
didn't
is
know
like
that-
another example of them of Democratic activists, operatives throwing everything they can at the kitchen sink, and they're hoping this one really, really sticks. And this is maybe more outrageous than the other one.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, because you're indicting Trump's attorneys, people who are just involved in the campaign. I mean,
Well, what it did
and
when
is
she
it
included the-
unlawful to question the results of a campaign?
No, it should never be unlawful to question the results. This is America, for crying out loud.
Well, tell that to Stacey Abrams. Tell
well,
that to Hillary Clinton.
Exactly. And that's what I pointed out last time, was that all these people would be open for criminal indictment. But the fact that they indicted, that this DA indicted the people who were the fake electors in Georgia opens a whole can of worms, because guess what? Chris Mays is looking into the fake electors here in Arizona. I'm guessing the Michigan DA is doing the same thing. I mean, we now are going to have cases all over the country.
Yeah.
Democrat attorney generals or DAs going after this line of investigation on fake electors.
Yep.
So
it's going to be a never-ending saga all the way up to the election. And do you think, I read this the other 2 days ago or yesterday, do you think that the game plan here is arrest Trump, put him in jail, to put him away, even though that he may be the leading Republican and might be the nominee? I mean, some polling just came out that he's 40 points up.
Yeah, I think that they know that this stuff bolsters him with the base. They want him to be the nominee because they know that if he's the nominee, they believe that if he's the nominee,
well, then Joe Biden doesn't need to do anything.
Then he
can be in. He can
nobody's
be in
going
the basement.
The middle will not. Their assumption is that swing voters would say, this dude's either in jail or he's about to go to jail, or he's, all they see is footage of him in the courtroom, coming out of the courtroom, whatever. They just think that's what will give them a Joe Biden win, because Joe Biden is basically incapable of campaigning.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you saw the video the other day, or, that he was in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, doing some rally. Ladies and gentlemen, President Joe Biden. He's not there. He does not come out.
Birds chirping.
Choop, choop. And she finally's like, she's so annoyed by this. She's like, vote for me.
I did not see that.
And it's unbelievable.
And if he does come out, he's shuffling along. And he's, like I said, he said no comment about the situation in Maui because he doesn't know what to say.
Which is crazy, because at minimum,
here's something scarier. He didn't even know it happened.
Well, maybe. I mean,
that's even scary.
At minimum, he could say, our thoughts and prayers are out to them. We're going to do everything we can.
Yeah.
We'll get back to you. Not even enough brain cells firing, brain synapses, whatever you want to call it, firing in his head to just give a human response.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing.
No comment.
It's not a good look.
Dr. Jill will tell me what to say later.
So
I guess. I don't know.
Boy.
Yeah, how did we get to this? The dodgy, stodgy old man, grumpy old Joe, and Donald versus Donald
speaking
Trump
of old,
all over again.
I mean, we got Trump, old.
Yeah.
Dianne Feinstein. The
90?
latest is that not only does her daughter have power of attorney,
well, of course,
a power of attorney enforced right now, but there's now she's been a victim of elder abuse.
Elder abuse.
Yeah. So look, I think it was it Nikki Haley that came out with we need to have
cognitive testing over 75. Yeah.
I'm sure there's all kinds of arguments about how that might be unconstitutional, but my goodness, it makes a lot of sense.
Hey, listen, the voters of California voted her back in, and that's
that they did.
We said this about Strom Thurmond
4.5 years ago,
and now we're saying this now about Mitch McConnell. The voters vote them back in, and that's our system. And unfortunately, that's our system.
Yeah.
And if the voters of Kentucky want to have Mitch McConnell back in the Senate and he's going to be in his 80s, all right.
Well,
we voted Joe Biden as president, and we knew this was going to be one of the consequences. Did people understand maybe this quickly? Maybe not. But this is what we're dealing with.
Well, this will be the great test. I mean, because are people going to pick the guy who literally can't even be human, or are they going to pick the guy who is going to spend the rest of his life in jail?
I don't know. I don't know how we got to this point. And then you have Hillary Clinton going on Rachel Maddow's show, just basically gloating, like, you should have indicted me when you had the chance. I mean, she didn't say that, so I don't want to put words in her mouth, but that's basically what she said. Yeah. Listen, I got away with it. He's not going to.
Maybe. I don't know.
Says the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yeah.
I'm going to go fly away on my broomstick now.
What is astounding to me, and this goes back to what we were talking about how the Democrats, they want Trump to be the nominee because they think he'd be the weakest. The one that they're afraid of the most, frankly, is Nikki Haley, which makes sense. A woman of color up against Joe Biden.
Yeah.
That's
well, I think they're scared Tim Scott, too.
Yeah. Frankly, I think they're worried about any of them. Now, DeSantis maybe less so because he's just become such a
floundering.
Trump light.
He's just floundering.
So the question, and
you brought this up before we went on air, and tell us a little bit about that.
Well,
really quick.
Actually,
we have plenty of time.
Yeah, we've got plenty of time. The DeSantis. So Alyssa and I were talking about this. My wife Alyssa, who is way smarter than me, she's like, there must be something that Trump can do that does to these guys. I mean, and she pointed back to the 2016 election
when
Marco Rubio, who is a very bright and rising star, or was, just collapsed under the pressure of Trump being there.
Calling him Little Marco.
Yeah, and just, I mean, she was like, it's almost like he was taking a dive. That this was a rigged fight. She said, it doesn't make any sense. This guy's really smart. I mean, because she was a Marco fan. She knew Marco. And she's met Marco. She knows that he's a competent person.
Yeah,
great senator. Would have been
really
a fantastic president.
Don't agree with him on everything.
But Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, all these people who just kind of just fell by the wayside, and now DeSantis is doing the same thing. It's like they get in their head, because he was riding such a strong wave as a part of his reaction to COVID, right? Mm-hmm. One of the best governors in the country.
Easily.
And rather than
turned a marginally purple state bright red.
And what he was doing was what he believed was right. He was following his gut, his instinct, his belief. And now he, as Alyssa pointed out, if you got him in at home, away from the cameras, and said, really? Banning these nuanced books? That's really where you want to go? I mean, she's like, he's got to say, it must be some kind of reaction to Trump, because it doesn't make sense. This fight against Disney doesn't make sense. These things don't separate him. I mean, it's like, it's almost like you look at Trump, it's like, okay, how can I be as much like him, but slightly different to be there? And it's just not going to work.
Well, I mean, there's also the stark difference of running your state, being an effective governor, taking on the left, especially on the cultural issues, which he's done very, very effectively, been able to communicate those issues effectively, and then taking that on a national stage. And that's different. And I've talked about this on the show. I remember when I met him at an event here last year, and he has a real problem with localizing his message. A very difficult problem. He relates everything back to his experience in Florida, which is fine. We all know that you're the governor of Florida. Right. We all know that you're crushing it there. We all know that you took a pretty purple state and turned it bright red. A lot of that due to your both get out the vote and registration efforts and party efforts and redoing the party and everything else. But right now, Governor, you're in Arizona, and maybe you want to talk about like what's going on here in Arizona.
Right.
Just a little bit. And what you would do here in Arizona if you were president.
Yeah. Well,
he has a really tough time with that.
Yeah. One of the things and this goes back to something that I've thought for a very long time. I'm not a big proponent of losing.
No.
Right. Okay.
Losing's bad.
And the one caveat I'll put on this is that Trump did not run and lose. before he ran into 2016. But you could make an argument that he had some business losses.
Sure.
So he's been through some tough stuff.
Yeah.
Bankruptcies, that kind of thing.
Going up against the longshore
Yeah,
unions.
I mean,
things
all
like
kinds
that.
of different things.
Crazy New York politics.
Things that would drag you, things that would provide metal,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Not since JFK have we had a president who has won has become president without losing first.
Losing election, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in Trump's case, it was I say he because he didn't run for anything before that.
Sure,
he lost in business, but Reagan, Nixon, Clinton,
yeah,
maybe Carter. I don't know whether Carter won or lost before he was governor of. Anyway, it's at least on the Republican
I think
side.
he lost a congressional race.
He might have, but there's something about losing.
Yeah.
That
creates winners.
Creates winners.
Yeah.
McCain lost before he became the nominee. Romney lost before he became the nominee. So DeSantis has never lost. And I think there's something to be said with.
Well, if things keep going the way they're going, he's
going to have one. Yeah. He's going to have a lot.
Because, like I said, the latest polling has Trump, with everything that's going on within the field, of 40% on DeSantis.
Yeah.
In both. In two polls, a Fox poll and another poll.
Well,
so it's
and the national
you
polls,
can't say it's over. It's
right.
Not
the
over
national polls are not
because it's August.
Right. Well, and the national polls are not the best indicator. It's still they've got to win Iowa. They've got to win. Somebody's going to win Iowa. Somebody's going to win New Hampshire. But I mean, I think Chris Christie's now ahead of DeSantis in New Hampshire,
which is.
I mean, it's just this thing is. It's Trump's to lose for sure.
Oh, completely.
And I think this debate coming up, whether Trump goes there or not. I mean, if he doesn't, he's going to get harangued for being a chicken.
He'll go.
I don't know.
I mean, his ego won't allow him to sit on the sidelines. He doesn't have to go.
You know what he maybe does?
He didn't have to go.
He's there. He's not on the stage. And then in the middle of it, he walks up on stage.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
that'd be such
it's all about
move,
the theater.
Right?
It's all about the theater. But he's got a big announcement on Monday too, right?
Well, maybe his lawyers are saying, I don't think this is a good idea. He claims he's got a 100-page report.
That's what Brian
that shows
Kemp was like.
Well, the
you
thing
got nothing.
I mean, look, we watched this in Arizona with the audit, bamboo, paper and all that kind of garbage.
Well, Carrie Lake still is maintaining she won.
Yeah. So, okay, I've got two things we got to cover. So,
all right, Are we going to pivot to
let's
Carrie
do-
Lake?
Yeah, we'll pivot to Carrie Lake.
Because all of a
and
sudden
Hurley.
she's everywhere again.
So
wonder what she's planning on doing.
Real quickly on the Georgia thing, what I didn't know until yesterday, because I wasn't paying attention, they did a hand count.
Oh yeah, they
of
did.
all 5 million ballots.
Yeah,
in Georgia.
Yeah,
a hand count.
There's 2 states I think they did a hand count.
I mean, that's. I don't know what he could possibly say.
Well,
so going to Carrie Lake and to others of her ilk. So I have concluded that you have a number of Trump acolytes, people who are just diehard Trumpies. Literally, he can do no wrong. Even when he's definitely wrong, they will not admit any wrongdoing on his part. And I find that idolatry. I think that for them to believe that Trump is perfect is to commit the sin of idolatry. That they are putting Trump above their Christian. If they're Christian, they're putting Trump above Christ. And I think that that's a pretty dangerous place to be.
Yeah, I have a different take on that, I think.
Okay.
I agree with the idolatry part, but I think there's a segment of the population, I would say middle class, lower class, white working class, Hispanic working class, that is drawn to Trump, and they feel that he is the answer to a lot of what they've been feeling for several decades. You go back to Hillbilly Elegy and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And they see him as the answer of taking a wrecking ball to the establishment,
Yeah,
however
to the elite.
however you define that.
Whatever it is in your mind.
However you now, a lot of these people are family people, God-fearing people, probably would identify themselves as Christian, would not agree with what you're saying, but they see Trump as and I heard this perspective earlier today, and I agreed with it. And they see him as the answer to the elite. I mean, even if you take Hillary Clinton's interview with Rachel Maddow, when she says, "Oh, the system is working," I mean, that just cuts to those people's core,
Right.
and says, "No, you're the one who should have been in jail. You and your server and your bleach bit and your hammers and everything else, you should be in jail." And the Republicans, the establishment, didn't have the guts to go after you when they had the power. And yet now you have the power and you're going after Trump.
Right.
So those are the folks who are diehard Trump people. I think.
Well,
They
don't
want
disagree.
revenge. They want some scalps. They want some heads.
Well,
and they believe Trump is the guy to do it. Now, we both know how Washington works and how things work, and there's a lot more that Trump could have done in his presidency to answer those types of issues.
Yep.
Those, if you just look at the Antifa riots of 2020, why didn't Bill Barr go after every single Antifa leader that he could find and throw them all in jail? Go after everyone he could. Why didn't Donald Trump do that?
I don't know.
Why did Donald Trump elevate Anthony Fauci to godlike status? Trump did a lot of this stuff on his own.
I mean, look, there
was ample opportunity for Trump to do exactly what all these people were clamoring for him to do.
Well,
and guess what? He didn't do it.
He didn't do it. I mean,
Did he build the wall?
No.
No.
I mean,
So
the best arguments against Trump.
So it's almost idolatry. I think you're right, though. And so it's idolatry for the sake of idolatry. It's ignoring all the other things that they wanted him to do, but he didn't do anyway.
Well, that's the thing.
So
It's like, well, what makes them believe that he's going to do it this time?
Yeah. No, I agree
I don't
with
know.
you. I do agree with that.
I mean, literally, what would make you think that if he didn't do it? Now, remember, he had a Republican House and a Republican
a Senate for the first
2
2
years. He basically could have done whatever he wanted.
He could have called in Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell and be like, "Here's the way it's going to be."
Well, they did. I mean, they
and he would have gotten a lot more done. He had a lot of people around him who were totally incompetent, and that was one of the biggest problems. That was one of the biggest problems of the early Trump administration. But if you look at the stuff that happened during COVID, the shutting down of churches, the Antifa riots, the Black Lives Matter riots, why aren't those people in jail?
It's a great question.
Why?
It's a great question.
You could leading up to that, to the 2020 election, if you were prosecuting if you were running not only as someone who was going to get us through COVID, but on a law and order ticket and proving it, you would have won.
Well, that's a great point.
I mean, because that was what was frustrating middle America. Why are we watching Portland burn? Why are we watching Antifa rioters trying to break down fencing to a federal courthouse and no one's getting arrested? And the National Guard isn't being called out.
Right.
Tom Cotton wrote a brilliant article in the New York Times. The editor got fired.
Right.
Because he advocated calling out the National Guard
Yeah.
for these Antifa riots, which was the correct response.
Yes. Because clearly the local law enforcement was they were either not responding or did not have the ability to deal with the level of violence that was.
And so what's happening in our cities now? Look at San Francisco. San Francisco is in a death spiral because of those policies. Seattle, almost a death spiral. The only thing that's keeping Seattle up is Microsoft at this point. Portland is a dead city.
Yeah.
People are leaving in droves.
Well, I mean, it's the
LA is getting there.
and the homelessness problem is just exploded.
Exploded.
25%,
30% nationwide. Was it reported? It's crazy. And it all stems from that summer.
Yeah.
It really does. Everything stems because the country was on the right track. It stems from the mistakes that Donald Trump made.
and then lost,
and then
handed it over to Biden,
handed over
who then
to
just
a
completely
decrepit, senile, doddering old fool.
Oh
Fool.
boy! Oh boy!
I heard the town burned down. I got no comment. I mean, who says that?
Well,
There's
he did.
1,300 people missing. Women and children are being found burned alive, hugging each other. I got
That's
no
horrific.
comment.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, we got an interesting couple weeks. We got an interesting couple months. I don't know.
It's a
like
couple
a
years,
couple
man.
years.
Or at least, how long do we have before
You know,
the
but
election?
you know what I'm really grateful for? That I get to sit here at this desk and talk about this stuff with you.
Yeah, we get to be the armchair quarterback.
We get to be the armchair quarterbacks, and
But I think we are talking about things that are to come,
yes,
and trying to be at least a little bit of a voice of reason. I mean, I think if you support Trump, great, all for it, whatever. But man, at least be open about the fact that the guy's not perfect.
oh gosh, no. I mean, a lot of what has happened, he's brought on himself.
Yes.
Now, these indictments, especially this latest one, where they're going after his attorneys. I mean, it's you know what on the wall, and seeing what sticks. Oh, and this attorney, what's her name? Fanny.
Yeah,
whatever,
the one
in Georgia. She's up for re-election.
Oh, is that right?
She's up for re-election. So what if she loses? I don't think she will in Fulton County, but
Well, is she up in 24?
I think she's up this year.
Wait,
Did I
they
read
have an
that?
off here?
Yeah, did I read that? Yeah, I
don't
read
know.
that incorrectly.
Well, I mean, and they're all of these prosecutions are trying to get the trial dates before the election. Obviously, Trump's trying to.
No, she's trying to.
She wants to do March of next year, right?
March, which is right before the Georgia primary.
Oh, jeez.
So if you wanted any more evidence that this is completely political, there you go.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the law. It has nothing to do with the sanctity
Well,
of law.
and
It has nothing to do with the rule of law.
It's like
nothing.
Why is I mean, this election happened in 2020.
Yeah, she's been working on this for a while.
2023.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a little late. She should have done this a year ago.
yeah. Well, that's true. But to your point, this does carry the most danger. I think what I read, if you combine all the possible indictments in terms of jail time, Donald Trump would be in jail for 700 years.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It's crazy.
It's stupid. It's such
crazy.
an overreach.
But this time next year, he could be in jail. They could be doing a debate from jail.
Well,
one from basement, one from cell block 7.
Yeah, they could literally be
Nah, I don't think so.
Well, but he's also not doing himself any favors because he's really pushing the. I mean, these judges do have the ability to push back.
Oh, of course.
When they say you shouldn't be talking to witnesses or you shouldn't be, I mean, he is tainting these cases pretty badly against himself in the eyes of the judges, which I think that's
well,
playing
it's just
with
like
fire.
the documents case. I mean, a lot of that could have been, disarmed.
I did read somewhere
gave back the
Yeah,
documents.
exactly. I mean that in my
Don't
mind,
be hiding boxes in the gold-plated bathroom.
That is the case that to me is the most concerning when it comes to his actions, because he knew he had documents that were classified,
And he knew they were coming for him.
and yes, and he did things purposefully to
Aggravate the situation.
just to obstruct that. And all this other garbage is he's going to say what he's going to say about elections being stolen because that's who he is, and he's got to have a
that's his platform.
Right.
His platform was stolen from me.
Mm-hmm.
And were there irregularities? Of course. Was it stolen?
But
not with the hand count.
We talk about
there's
it all
one hand count in Georgia or two.
there might have been two. I
Yeah,
don't
there
know.
might have been two.
But we lost this thing. We as in Republicans lost this the moment there was no challenges to what states were doing as a result of the reaction to COVID.
Yeah.
They should have filed lawsuits to stop, the process of
And
the way things happen.
That was that summer of 2020.
Yeah,
That was
somebody
the summer.
they just weren't paying
2020.
attention.
Yeah, when states started changing their election laws, that's when the challenges should have happened. Not you don't sue after the election.
Right.
It's harder to prove your case.
Have I said this to you? My theory about 2020. I have a
You have a theory.
kind of outlandish theory.
Well, I mean, repeat it. Well, go ahead.
That he lost on purpose.
He lost on purpose.
Yes.
Okay, that is not something that we've talked about
Because
on the
there's
show.
no money in winning.
There's
If he
and
had
he
won,
hated he hated the White House.
if he'd won,
It was a dump.
he was a second term lame duck president. Why would anyone send him any money?
And his businesses were in the they are even more so now.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't have an election to contest, lawyers to pay, I mean, how's he going to keep that money machine going?
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
I think he lost on purpose.
Well, he certainly started the money machine the day after the election.
I mean, I think it was
all the way up to
geared up
January
before.
6th. Yeah.
I think they were getting ready before.
Yeah, we're going to lose, and we're going to make this a money-making enterprise. I don't think he's that smart.
Well, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't think, and that's why I think this RICO charge is just ridiculous because the coordination that it would take to make that happen. They're having been around some of those folks in the indictment.
I mean, people were throwing stuff.
Half those people don't even like each other.
You couldn't have a conspiracy
There's no
because
conspiracy.
there were so many people throwing out so many garbage theories, and it's a bunch of crazy people that had no clue.
Yeah, half those people can't stand each
You
other.
can't
They would
tell
not
me.
coordinate anything.
The press conference that was at the RNC that was Sidney Powell, is that her name?
Yeah.
And Rudy Giuliani,
Giuliani.
With his hair dye going down his chin, that was some kind of grand criminal enterprise where they're going to fake people into. I mean, they were just grasping at any possible
making
straw.
money.
Now
It's all about the
Giuliani is
money.
desperate to have Trump pay his legal fees. Apparently, he's been
Well,
to Mar-a-Lago
there's
to
a
beg.
big rumor that he flipped.
That Giuliani flipped.
Yeah, yeah. There's I read something on that the other day. There's a concern that maybe he is the flipper.
So he's
the penguin.
but he's indicted.
That is true.
Interesting.
Yes. The plot thickens.
The plot thickens.
The plot thickens against Donald J. Trump.
Oh boy.
I've gotten like 5 text messages
how would
in
you
the
like
last
to
24
be
hours
the
asking for money.
The Yahoo who was one of those fake electors is like, oh yeah, I'll go and I'll sign this, and now you're indicted, man.
And now you're indicted. Now you're in deep trouble. Well, look at all the people who showed up at January 6th and it didn't do anything, and they're in jail.
Yeah, it's going to happen here. I mean, I think Chris Mays is going to. I think there's a really strong chance that there's going to be some indictments here in Arizona with the slate of fake electors here in Arizona. So Kelly Ward and who knows? They're going to have to go pull her off her boat in the Bahamas, or
Chemtrail
Caribbean,
Kelly.
or wherever she is.
Chemtrail.
Yep.
That brings us back to Carrie Lake. She's running.
Oh, I think she's probably going to run.
Yeah, she's running for United States Senate because her election was stolen too.
Right. Yep.
Or, I heard it again today on a national show. She could be Trump's running mate.
Well, I think she's got to be on the short list.
Yeah.
She's got to be on the short list. I mean, there isn't anybody out there that's more.
Well, she's
loyal
definitely
to
jockeying
Trump.
for it because apparently she's been down in Mar-a-Lago, been living there. She has her own room.
And she's been in Iowa. I mean, she is campaigning for Trump for president. I mean, if she's running for Senate, maybe she.
Then Kirsten probably wins, I would say.
My guess is that the middle lane is pretty wide.
Wide.
Ruben Gallego and Carrie Lake.
Yep. Yeah, that's a huge.
It's a big
boulevard.
swath of the middle.
Yeah, that's a big boulevard. That's a big
reminds me of
Broadway.
that Green Day song.
You're not going to start singing for
No,
us, are you,
no.
Sammy? I just had a Fletch moment there. You're not going to sing for us, are you, Sammy?
Oh boy.
Yeah. How did we get here?
The question is, how do we get out?
Well, I think, it's got to happen to the other side. They've gone after Trump. They've prosecuted him since he was elected. Until the Republicans get their own, it doesn't stop.
Well, that's true, but
until the Democrats take a big hit, it doesn't stop. And then all of a sudden, everyone wakes up to like this is a zero-sum game. We're going to destroy the country, and maybe our better angels prevail.
Well, what I believe that the House of Representatives needs to open an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden. Joe Biden, because
then you can get everything.
Well, I mean, they need to do it because think about this, and this is
then they're playing hardball.
They impeached Donald Trump over a phone call to the president of the Ukraine to talk about whether there was anything that he could get on Joe Biden. Okay, so that's a phone call to talk about it. All right, there wasn't anything actually done.
Nothing was
right?
exchanged.
But
right?
Joe Biden goes on camera and brags about how he told the Ukrainians, "You get rid of this guy, or you're not going to get American foreign aid."
Like $1 billion.
Yeah. You want that $1 billion? You fire that prosecutor.
And meanwhile, his son's making $85,000
right.
bucks a month.
You want to know why they wanted the prosecutor fired? Because the prosecutor was going after Burisma, which is where his son was working.
Yep.
Oh, huh. What about that? I mean, the corruption in the Biden family. I mean, you want to talk about a criminal enterprise?
You're all fired up all of a sudden.
It's crazy. I mean,
20 shell companies.
We impeached
need
a president
20 shell
over
companies.
a phone call when we have a president who has literally bragged about holding American money hostage for them to do something that helps the company of the company that his son is working for.
Yeah.
I mean,
that they were.
If that's not a high crime and misdemeanor, there is no such thing. That is exactly why we have an impeachment process in the Constitution. He is living proof. Why do we have an impeachment process? Because that guy, as the vice president, sold American support based on what these foreign countries would do
for him personally
on a threat. Yeah.
But the opposition says, but there's no direct ties to Joe Biden.
They have been changing they've been moving the goalposts.
They've been moving the goalposts for months.
It's insane.
It's hilarious.
I mean, it's first he didn't know about Hunter's business dealings. He never talked to Hunter about his business dealings.
He would just call and show up at their business meetings.
He wasn't in business
Milano.
with Hunter. Well, I mean, they're moving the goalposts. It's going to be they're going to find payment that went directly to Joe. That's going to happen.
I'm sure they already
it's
have it.
Happen.
I think they already have it. I think James Comer's being very meticulous. He's being very patient, and then they're going to flip the switch. So you watch. I think Comer's actually done a really good job with this, and he's building the case. He's not going to lay all of his cards out right.
That's probably right.
All at once.
That's probably right.
He's basically said that in some interviews.
They won't get a conviction in the Senate at this point if they go.
No, but they can get him. They can get him next time.
Yeah, probably. It is corruption.
Oh, completely.
100%. It is corruption. Absolute corruption.
Whew. So, what do you think Barack Obama knew, and when did he know it?
Oh, I think
he knew.
I think he knew because when he said, "Don't underestimate how badly Joe Biden can fuck things up," I think that's exactly what he's talking about. He's like he's got his fingers in the till, and it's completely screwing up the whole thing.
Yep.
But what's fascinating is that it's Obama that's still in charge.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
any of you who has a brain can see that.
The dude did not leave D.C.
No, he lives 2 miles from the White House.
What former president stays in D.C.?
Well, and all his people are there in the White House.
All of them.
All of them.
I mean, the entire foreign policy apparatus is a Barack Obama.
Yeah. And how many times is Obama there a week? They won't tell us, but
I mean,
word has it he's basically there.
Well, why haven't the press staked out Obama's house and just reported on who's going in and out? Yeah. I mean, why that would be a very fascinating beat. I don't understand it.
I'm not going to go into the whole Obama thing on this podcast.
Well, I'm reading
what's been revealed over the last week. I'm not going to even go there.
Well,
but it's really unbelievable.
So if you have 56 hours,
yeah, exactly,
which is the length of the book in the audio. I'm listening at it at 1.7. Rising Star.
Yes,
book that came out in 2017.
Star. And was buried by the press, buried by everyone, buried by the New York Times. I mean, and now is climbing.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about, okay, this makes a lot of sense. His anti-colonialism, just liberal ideology, all
anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I mean, it all makes sense.
The great Reverend Jeremiah Wright.
Yes. God
damn America.
Right.
Yep.
Because of the Jews.
Yep.
It's insane.
And yeah, I believe from the beginning this is Obama's third term, right when Susan Rice took a leading role in the White House. That synced it for me. I'm like, oh yeah, well, Barack's calling the shots.
Yeah.
And then do you remember when Barack visited the White House, and everybody was around Obama, and Biden was trying to like tap him on the shoulder, and nobody, and Biden was just off to the side, and
the president of the United States is looking at a curtain.
Yeah, and then that's what did it for me. I'm like, okay, well now we know who's really president. This is just a joke. This is just an act.
It's an act. Well,
and that's not a conspiracy.
No, it's
not at all. It's pretty much fact.
As I say, it's not a conspiracy theory when the conspiracy is real.
Yeah,
it is an actual conspiracy. Well, I think we've covered.
Yeah, the real conspiracy is not in Georgia. The real conspiracy is on Pennsylvania.
That's right. Absolutely, 100%. Well,
that seems like the title of our show. There we go.
Until next time.
God bless.
Thanks, everybody.